My fiancée said, "It's just a small lie. Don't overreact." I nodded. That night, I hired a PI, collected everything, and filed for fraud. 10 days later, she showed up at my job screaming in front of everyone. I'm 32 mem. For the last 4 years, my life has been about building things. As an architectural designer, I deal in solid foundations, clean lines, and the logical progression of a structure from blueprint to reality. I thought my personal life was built just as soundly. I was wrong. My fiancée, Hannah, 29F, and I were a month from closing on a house. We were engaged for a year, together for 4. She was the vibrant, spontaneous force to my quiet, methodical nature. Her dream was to launch a high-end event planning business, and I was her biggest believer. She had created an astonishingly detailed business plan, a 50-page professionally bound document that became a fixture on our coffee table. It was filled with market analysis, 5-year projections, and sophisticated branding concepts. The entire plan, the very foundation of its viability, rested on 2 pillars: her MBA from a top-tier business school and 3 years of experience as a senior coordinator at a major event management company. These weren't just bullet points on a resume. She wove them into the fabric of our life. I'd heard countless stories about her demanding professors, the all-night study sessions, the corporate politics at her old firm. Based on the strength of that plan and her credentials, I agreed to be the sole initial investor. I transferred $40,000 from my savings, money my late grandparents had left me. It felt like the most logical investment I could ever make. I wasn't just funding a business, I was building a future with the woman I loved. I even designed the logo and the cover for that damn plan. It was our artifact, a tangible promise of the life we were creating. Last week, that foundation turned to sand. I was on social media, killing time, and fell down a rabbit hole of old photos. I ended up on the profile of a bridesmaid from Hannah's sister's wedding, in an album dated 6 years ago, titled Community College Graduation. There was a photo that stopped my heart. It was Hannah, beaming in a cheap polyester cap and gown, holding a certificate from a local community college. The caption, posted by her friend, read, "So proud of my bestie Hannah for finally getting her associate's in hospitality management. On to the next chapter. An associate's degree, not an MBA." The date on the photo was from a time when she was supposedly deep in her first year of that grueling, prestigious MBA program. The air in the room grew thin. It was like looking at a blueprint and suddenly realizing the measurements are all wrong. The entire structure is a lie. I spent the next hour in a cold, quiet frenzy, cross-referencing everything. Her stories, the dates, the lies. I found the website for the event company she claimed to have been a senior coordinator at. Their Meet the Team archive went back a decade. She was never on it. I didn't confront her when she walked in from her networking dinner. I waited. I let her talk about her day. I watched her, this stranger I had asked to marry me. Later, as we were getting ready for bed, I sat on the edge of the mattress, held up my phone with the picture and asked, "Can you explain this?" First came the frantic denial, then the tears, then the frantic, rambling confession. She had dropped out of community college. The MBA was a complete fabrication. The senior coordinator job was a 3-month unpaid internship she'd been let go from. "I was going to tell you, I swear," she whispered, her voice choked with tears. "But it was just a little lie to get things started, to get your confidence. The business is real. My ideas are real." I just stared at her, at the ruins of the last 4 years. The hurt was a physical pressure in my chest, but my mind, my designer's mind, was already seeing the structural failure, the compromised integrity. Her desperation turned to defensiveness when she saw my silence. "Don't look at me like that. It's not a big deal. You have plenty of money. It's just a small lie to achieve a big dream. Don't overreact." I nodded slowly, a single deliberate movement. "You're right, it's late." She went to sleep, seemingly reassured. But I didn't sleep. I sat at our kitchen table, the engagement ring I'd bought her sitting on the counter, catching the dim light. My hands were shaking, not from rage, but from a profound sense of disillusionment. I wanted to scream, to break something. Instead, I opened my laptop. I needed facts, not feelings. I needed a blueprint of the truth. That night, I requested a consultation with a private investigator. Update. It's been the longest week of my life. The PI, a former detective named Sean, has been feeding me information in pieces. Each piece has felt like another wall of my life crumbling. Day 2. Sean called. Preliminary check is in. The university has no record of Hannah M. ever applying, let alone attending. It's a clean miss. He said it so matter-of-factly. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a strange mix of vindication and nausea. Day 4. Sean called again. Made contact with a former colleague of hers from that internship. Your fiancée was let go for grossly misrepresenting her role to potential clients. She was basically telling people she was a full-fledged planner to try and drum up side work. He also confirmed with HR that her official title was summer intern, and she was unpaid. No senior coordinator role ever existed. Day 6. This was the gut punch. The full financial background came in. Hannah was drowning in over $25,000 of credit card debt and had a car loan I never knew existed. She wasn't just lying about her past, she was lying about her present. My $40,000 wasn't just seed money for a dream, it was a desperate bailout. Armed with a folder of cold, hard facts, I met with my lawyer. He was a sharp, no-nonsense guy my firm keeps on retainer. I laid everything out. The signed investment agreement that explicitly referenced her MBA and work experience, the PI's report, copies of my bank transfers. He was quiet for a long time, reviewing the documents. Okay, he said, finally looking at me over his glasses. This is a strong case for fraudulent misrepresentation. It's not a simple slam dunk. Her lawyer will argue it was a personal gift between a loving couple and you're now acting out of spite. They'll say the business plan was just a projection of a dream, not a contract. But she signed the agreement, I insisted. And that's our leverage, he countered. That's what makes this a real fight, and one I think we can win. But it will be a fight, Noah. It's going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? I told him I was. We filed the civil fraud claim yesterday. The goal isn't just the money. It's about a legal judgment, a factual record of the lie. I had a service pack her things and send them to her parents' house, where she's been staying since I asked her to leave. The text started almost immediately after she was served. A lawsuit? You are actually suing me? Are you insane? This is because I lied about a stupid piece of paper? You are destroying everything we had over a piece of paper. You're a monster. My parents are horrified. They said they never knew you could be this cruel and vindictive. Then her mother, Doris, began her barrage. Noah, call me. This is a family matter, and you have gone too far. You are embarrassing Hannah and all of us. You need to stop this now. I felt a surge of something hot and bitter. I typed back a single reply before blocking them both. A family doesn't defraud one of its own. The silence since has been deafening. I know it's just the tide going out before the tsunami hits. Update. The tsunami made landfall at 2:15 p.m. today. In my office, our firm is an open plan space. It thrives on quiet collaboration. That peace was shattered when the receptionist buzzed my line, her voice tight with panic. Noah, your fiancée Hannah is here. With her mother. They're demanding to see you. Before I could even formulate a response, they were past the front desk and striding into the main workspace. It wasn't just a visit. It was an invasion. Hannah wasn't just crying. She was performing, her face streaked with mascara, her arms waving for dramatic effect. Her mother, Doris, followed like a storm cloud. Noah, Hannah's voice, shrill and accusatory, cut through the quiet hum of the office. 30 heads snapped up, keyboards fell silent. How could you do this to me? How could you be so cruel? I stood up, on heartbeat a frantic drum against my ribs, but I forced my face to remain a blank mask. I walked to meet them, aware of every eye on me. My boss, Arthur, a stern but fair man, was already moving out of his glass-walled office. Hannah, this is not the time or the place, I said, my voice low. Don't you dare, her mother spat, her voice shaking with rage. You don't get to decide the time or place after humiliating my daughter. What is wrong with you? He's trying to ruin me, Hannah wailed, pointing a trembling finger at me. The performance was for the audience, my colleagues. He's suing me over one tiny, insignificant lie. Is this the kind of man you all work with? A man who financially and emotionally abuses his fiancée? The air was thick with tension. I saw one of the junior designers shrink behind his monitor. I heard a nervous cough. This wasn't the supportive silence I might have hoped for. It was the rapt, horrified silence of people witnessing a train wreck and not knowing where to look. Arthur stepped between us, his presence alone a calming force. "Ma'am, I am the director here. You are disrupting my business. I need you to leave. Now." "We're not leaving until he drops this disgusting lawsuit and apologizes," Doris shrieked. I finally looked directly at Hannah, past the performative tears to the core of her entitlement. "There is nothing to apologize for," I said, my voice clear and carrying in the dead silence. "You lied to me to get $40,000. That's not a misunderstanding. It's fraud. These are the consequences." Her face contorted. "You never loved me. This was always about money and control for you." Arthur had heard enough. He signaled to the security guard we have in the lobby. "Jesse, please escort these ladies out of the building." As Jesse, a large, impassive man, began to move them toward the exit, Hannah yelled her parting shot. "He's a monster. He's a cold, manipulative monster. Don't any of you trust him." They were finally removed, leaving a wake of stunned silence. Arthur walked over. He didn't put a hand on my shoulder. He just looked at me, his expression pragmatic. "Noah, go home for the day, and listen to me. I'll back you as my employee, but I run a business here. Handle your personal drama outside these walls. Is that understood?" "Understood," I mumbled. It was fair, but it still felt cold. As I packed my bag, one of my colleagues, Marie, walked past and quietly placed a cup of coffee on my desk. "That was insane," she whispered. "Don't let them win." It was a small kindness, but in the sea of awkward stares and the sudden eruption of hushed gossip I could hear starting across the room, it felt like a life raft. I knew then that I wasn't just Noah the designer anymore. I was now Noah, the guy whose ex had a screaming meltdown in the office. That's a stain that doesn't easily wash out. Final update. It's over. The last 3 months have been a grinding war of attrition. After the office incident, Hannah and her family realized public hysterics only made them look unhinged, so they shifted to a campaign of quiet corrosion. The first front was our mutual friends. A few reached out, not with accusations but with awkward attempts at mediation. "Hey man, I'm sorry about all this, but suing her seems really extreme. Can't you guys just talk?" Others just ghosted me completely, clearly not wanting to be caught in the crossfire. My social circle shrank overnight. The isolation was suffocating. Then her father, Gerald, made his move. He called me, his voice oozing a kind of forced man-to-man bonhomie. "Noah, Gerald, this has all gone on long enough. You've made your point. You embarrassed my girl. Now it's time to be a man. Drop this nonsense and move on." "It's not nonsense, Gerald," I said, my knuckles white from gripping the phone. "Don't get technical with me, son," he said, the condescension dripping from his words. "You took a punt on a business idea. It didn't work. It happens. You don't try to ruin a young woman over it. We'll give you 10 grand to make this go away, and you sign an NDA saying it was a misunderstanding. That's my final offer." The sheer arrogance of it, offering a quarter of what they stole and demanding I sign a gag order, pushed me over the edge. Not into yelling, but into a cold, hard clarity. They were never going to get it. They lived in a world where consequences were for other people. I realized they were all operating on Hannah's heavily edited version of the truth. My lawyer had warned me against it, but I felt cornered. I was losing friends, my reputation at work was tarnished, and they were trying to bully me into submission. I had one weapon left, the unvarnished truth. I drafted a calm, factual email with the subject line, "The information I've been asked not to share." I sent it to a carefully selected list: Hannah's sister, Catherine, her aunt who doted on her, her father, and the 5 mutual friends who had tried to mediate or had ghosted me. In the email, I wrote, "I'm writing this because I've been accused of being cruel and vindictive, and I feel you all deserve the full context. My legal action is not based on a small lie. It is based on a calculated, long-term deception that resulted in a financial loss of $40,000. I have attached the PI's summary report and the fraudulent business plan that was used to secure the investment. I am not asking you to take my side, only to understand my actions." The fallout was nuclear. Hannah's sister called me, sobbing. "Noah? Oh my God. She told us she just fudged her resume a bit. She never told us any of this. My dad, he's been telling his friends what a genius she is. He's mortified." The friends reemerged with apologies. The pressure on Hannah was no longer coming from me. It was coming from within her own shattered inner circle. Gerald, faced with undeniable proof that his daughter was a con artist and that he had been her belligerent mouthpiece, finally broke. Their lawyer called mine. They wanted to settle. It was a bitter, ugly negotiation, but they had no leverage left. They agreed to pay back the full $40,000. Catherine told me later her parents had to take out a second mortgage on their house to make the first payment. The final installment cleared last week. I have my money back. But there's no victory here. There's a permanent scar at my job. There are friendships that are gone forever. I'm more cynical, more guarded. The other night, I was looking at blueprints for a new project, and I found myself checking the engineer's credentials online. That's who I am now. The business plan, the artifact of our broken future, is in a box in my storage unit. It's a reminder that some structures are so rotten at their foundation that you can't fix them. You just have to have the courage to see the truth, tear the whole thing down, and walk away from the wreckage before it buries you alive.